Good morning, everybody. And welcome to the Township of North Frontenac's Public Council meeting. We're here to look at amendments to the fees and charges bylaw today. But to start, we have a notice we'd like to read regarding public meetings. So please be advised, North Frontenac council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. The chair and or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of the recording. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. The township shall not be responsible should technical difficulties prevent the recording of any meeting or a portion thereof. Technical issues may include, but are not limited to, the availability of the internet connection, device failure or malfunction, unavailability of social platforms, or other power outages. It should be noted that no protection is afforded to council members, employees, or the public for comments made during meetings which are subsequently challenged in court and or determined to be defamatory. Notice is hereby provided under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 in accordance with the Municipal Freedom of Information and Privacy Act, that all information recorded for a public meeting or other public process are considered a public record. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees should be mindful of using names of individuals or entities when discussing matters in public. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behavior or comments. Okay. Approval of the agenda.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council approves the agenda for the public meeting regarding the fees and charges bylaw dated September 22nd, 2023 as circulated.
Are there any comments? Seeing none, in favor? Motion is carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Any declarations? Seeing none. Proposed amendments to the fees and charges bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Hudel, whereas at the meeting on August 17th, 2023, council passed resolution 349-23 and 350-23, receiving for information the treasurer's administrative reports entitled Proposed Fees and Charges Bylaw Schedule A and Building Department Update Schedule C, and approving in principle amendments to the fees and charges bylaw. And that council will receive comments from the public regarding the proposed amendments, and that council will consider a bylaw to amend the fees and charges bylaw at the following regular meeting.
We have to read the whole thing. Okay. Any comments? In favor? Carried. So we now, sorry, the floor is now open for public comments, either from the council chamber or from an online source. Anything, Sonia? So the next item for this meeting is the adjournment.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, seconded by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council adjourns the public meeting at 9:05 a.m.
Any comments? In favor? The motion is carried. So that meeting is now ended. So our next meeting is the regular council meeting, called to order at 9:06. And we have to read the same declaration again, folks. Don't I have to?
You read it for the first.
Okay, sorry. All right. Thank you. Okay, so approval of agenda.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council approves the agenda dated September 22nd, 2023 as circulated.
Any comments? In favor? The motion is carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Business profile, Clancy Electric.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the business profile of Clancy Electric provided by Paul Teal, Economic Development Task Force member.
Any comments? In favor? Motion's carried. We have a presentation unveiling of mural projects.
I think this is where I speak.
You're in place of the that's her husband. For Roxy. Her husband's
I think this is where I speak. The mural unveiling for 2023. Brooke has prepared some notes for me here. I see that we started this in 2017. I didn't know it had been 6 years. So this year, again, we have 5 new murals to unveil. This is a program that was created by the Economic Development Task Force, of which I'm currently the chair. And we have 2 other counselors on that task force, as well as members of the public. Since 2017, the EDTF has invited 5 artists every year to complete murals, and they're placed at different locations around the township. This year, the mural project has been another success, and we are excited to unveil 5 new ones here, which you'll see in a moment. To the artists, we are extremely grateful for your talent and the time you put in and your willingness to contribute to our amazing community. Thank you very much. So the order of the unveiling first is a mural by Ann Garrett. This is the first mural she's had in the township. Can we see it, please? Not for counselors to see. This is for the public. It's on the TV screen there. This is titled Relax and Spend Some Time. This mural is going to go at the on the shore of Crotch Lake, at the Crotch Lake Access Road near Coxvale. I think this is a first-time location for a mural at that place. Is that right, Brooke? This is the permanent one. So is Ann here? I have certificate for you, Ann. How appropriate.
Yeah.
Thank you very much from the township. Okay. This is pretty heavy work, but we have very capable staff. I don't know, what does anybody know what a sheet of 4x8 plywood weighs? 3/4 inch thick. It's well, Jason's a strong guy. The second mural is from Michelle, and Michelle is a veteran here. And Michelle traditionally puts a photograph onto a surface, and let's have a look at what's happened this time. This is going to beautify the 506 waste site entrance. Isn't that amazing? Do I recognize that as Gary Weber's field? Across from Martin Road, beside the 506.
No, right in.
Oh, in the Martin Road. The only flat country we have. So, Michelle,
you.
Thank you very much. Now you're supposed to stand on this
All
side.
right.
Number 3 this year, more veterans. And it's announced on the back, art by the Baileys. And don't anybody steal it. This is the property of North Frontenac Township. This is going to take all of the wall space in the council chamber. Perhaps we'll have to cancel the meeting. And this mural is titled Cottage View. And this is going at the end of Levant Road on 509 at the Public Works Garage, where you have one right now, which is after its time is deteriorating. We're certainly aware that these beautiful murals, look at that, go outside, they get all the weather, they have a lifetime. This project is just going to go on and on and on as we keep replacing murals, but we're very happy to have them. Could I get a photograph? I understand Roxanne is not here, but her husband Dennis is that right? Thank you. This is mural number 4. End of Day on the Lake. This is going to be placed at the Palmerston Lake Boat Launch, off what we call between the lakes, on the Arcole Road. And this is a first-time location for a mural. Dennis, could I present you? For Roxanne on behalf of the township. Thank you. And once again, a photograph. And finally, a mural by Sonia Alcock. This is Sonia's second mural. Is that correct? The Joys of Winter. This is going to be in front of our office here. Sonia, could you come and receive a certificate? Thank you.
The gentleman challenged me the last time to do a winter scene. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, and
Not,
so,
not that I've ever influenced you.
no, and so it's been in my head for 2 years, so that's.
Congratulations. Photograph. Everyone. I think, Mr. Mayor, we're taking a 5-minute break for cake. 10-minute break for cake.
We'll now get back to our regular meeting. We have Brad McNevin from the Quinte Conservation Authority here to provide a presentation to us. Welcome, Brad.
My mic on? Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm gonna appreciate the time that Frontenac has given me here today. I'm gonna give a little bit of a breakdown about what Quinte Conservation does. The primary focus of my visit today, though, is that we have changes to the Conservation Authorities Act that require each conservation authority across the province to have a memorandum of understanding signed with each of our municipalities. So for Quinte Conservation's jurisdiction, we have 18 municipalities, and we need to have agreements put in place for what the Conservation Authority Act now says are Category 2 and 3 programs, so non-mandatory programs and services. So I want to give a little bit of a snapshot about what we do as part of all of our programming, Category 1, 2, and 3, and then with the understanding that the purpose is really to get you to get an understanding from the municipality regarding our MOU requirement. And for those well, we don't have any Category 2 programs in North Frontenac, but we do offer Category 3, which is watershed-based programming for things like stewardship and tree planting, working with landowners to restore shorelines, work like that. So we are we can advance the so conservation authorities, I'll give a little bit of history about conservation authorities. We're really based on watershed scale. Watershed scale meaning that we recognize that the important part of the upstream areas of a watershed that makes water quality improvements, that does things like helps protect climate change. And as that water drains down through the system and enters out into a river or lake, everything that goes on in that watershed are all impacted by proper watershed management, proper protection for wetlands and water courses, helps protect drinking water. All of those things done on a watershed scale benefit everybody. We're local initiative. We're one of the bigger conservation authorities. However, the concept is local initiative where we can share costs across all the municipalities that we benefit. And then again, the watershed jurisdiction is where we're based on. So we're not based on municipal boundaries or county boundaries. We're based on essentially topography. It did work that time. Sorry. For Quinte, we're a community-based environmental agency. We do provide cost-effective environmental expertise to our municipalities and to our landowners, and that's all around driving a healthy ecosystem. We want to make sure that the environment is protected. We want to make sure that we're good citizens. We're part of the economy. People want to have good drinking water. So we're an agency that helps with some of those aspects, and we do that. You know, we have rural stewardship programs. We're in schools talking to the youth about the importance of education and the importance of the environment, and all of those special projects that we do really are designed to help improve and protect the environment. In 1996, we formed Quinte Conservation. Our conservation authorities go back into the 1940s. Moira region was actually formed in 1947. But in 96, we amalgamated with the Napanee region, the Moira region, and the Prince Edward County region to form Quinte. We're about 6,000 square kilometers and home to about 167,000 people, serving 18 different municipalities within our jurisdiction. And one of the unique features about conservation authorities is that we own land. So for Quinte Conservation, we own about 30,000 acres of land across our watershed. And majority of that property is in sort of that northern band of our along the Highway 7 corridor. We own a lot of property, but most of it is sort of in the north part of the watershed region. We have, I answer to a board of directors. They are municipal councilors. In the last round of changes to the Conservation Authorities Act, there used to be an ability for municipalities to appoint citizen appointees to our board. But with those changes, 75% of our membership from each municipality has to be an elected official. And primarily with most of our municipalities having one board member on the board, they have to be elected. And that is all directed around the population of the municipality. So the Conservation Authorities Act says that if you have a population in your municipality between 1 and I think it's 9,999, then you get one person to represent your municipality on our board. We also have a budget that is based on a weighted vote. So all of our other business on our board is one member, one vote. With the exception of the budget. The budget is passed on a weighted vote, and that weighted vote is spelled out in the Conservation Authorities Act. It's current value assessment driven. So, and then the amount of your municipality that's within the watershed is also a factor. So if you look at the city of Belleville, they have a large CVA. We have 100% of their municipality within our jurisdiction. So they essentially form, I think it's, well, yeah, about 39%. They get 39% of the say in passing our vote. And then each municipality is calculated that way. So if we talk about specific about North Frontenac, we have a very small portion of your municipality in our watershed, and your weighted vote for the budget would be 0.047, 0.05% to pass that budget. However, on all other business, if you had a member on our board, you would get a one vote for any other kind of business. Primarily, our sources of funding are municipal levy. That's the big driver for our budget. We do have special levies, which are typically that benefit one particular municipality or for a special project or something like some of our infrastructure that we have. In the city of Belleville, we have some water control structures that are for ice management. They're specifically benefiting only the city of Belleville. So the city of Belleville primarily pays all of the expenses for that type of work. We do a lot of self-generated revenue. We do that through development fees. If we administer projects, we'll charge an administration fee. Well, I mentioned the special levies. We do have some general income from investments and equipment rental. We take donations. We do a lot of grant writing to help pay for some of our non-mandatory projects. We do a lot of work on our own land where we rent property for hunting, or we have a Depot Lakes campground that we charge for rental. So that's a cost recovery program. And then we recently introduced some parking fees at some of we have 12 destination sites that I'm going to talk a little bit about after, but we have some parking that we now charge for that, kind of the user pay type scenario. We do get some money from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry through Section 39 transfer payment. Also, they have a program, they put aside $5 million a year to help with water and erosion control infrastructure. That's money specific for conservation authorities. So if we can get matching funds, it's a 50% matching fund program, then we can access that WECI dollars to help repair, replace, or do required studies on our infrastructure, water control infrastructure specifically. The Source Water Protection Program is covered by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. And then we do have a few special projects, one of them the Bay of Quinte Remedial Action Plan as part of the Bay of Quinte cleanup. So, and that money comes to Environment Canada. A few years ago, we did a new strategic plan, a 10-year strategic plan, and out of that work, we came up with 4 drivers towards a vision, and they focused under accelerating advocacy, boosting well-being, and advancing environmental science, along with strengthening brand recognition. And out of that, out of those 4 drivers, we operate, I guess, 5 different program areas. Water management is up there twice because there's really 2 aspects of water management. We do water management from the aspect of protecting life and property from damages to flooding and natural hazards. And then we also have water management in terms of looking at the water quality and quantity through monitoring and snow modeling, things like that. We do have watershed planning. We provide municipal comments or comments to our municipalities and counties regarding planning information, specifically around natural hazards now. Some of those changes to the Conservation Authorities Act changed our focus on planning. So now it's strictly focused on natural hazards. And I have a couple slides about that later on. Conservation land management, again, 30,000 acres of land. We have a lot of focus on our lands and how we can make sure that those conservation areas that we invite people to come to are in good shape and worth visiting. And then our conservation education. Our water resources department, flood forecasting and warning is a primary category 1 mandatory program that we have to deliver. We were delegated those powers by the province in 1984, and that's essentially to communicate accurate and timely flood forecasts to our municipal partners and to the public so that they are prepared for a flood in the event of an emergency or that properties might be damaged. The funding for that is primarily through MNRF Section 39 transfer payments and then municipal levy. As part of that program, we are monitoring conditions year round, whether it be stream flows, snow depth, rainfall amounts, precipitation amounts. There are things that are monitored year round by our staff to ensure that we have a proper picture so that we can ensure that our municipalities know what's coming and our residents know what's coming in the spring freshet or any other related weather event. We need to understand the flooding risks. We forecast floods so that we can give predictions. We warn, educate, and document it. Documentation is an important part of our flood forecasting and warning program because after any flood, we want to make sure that we collect all that information and so that we can use it for future information on flooding. Opposite to low water, we were delegated those responsibilities. We look at communicating with our municipalities to ensure that they know if we're going into a low water year, and we do that through monitoring and analyzing conditions year round. We have 40 water control infrastructure or water control assets, which are basically flood control structures all the way down to weirs that we put in and out each year. And they're all part of our responsibility, and we need to maintain those structures to fulfill their design purposes and make sure that we reduce liability associated with those structures. And we do that again through Section 39 municipal levy, water and erosion control infrastructure grants, and we have a municipal capital levy for any municipalities that benefit from having one of those structures. They pay into our levy, our capital management levy. What do we do on a regular basis with those 40 structures? Well, we operate them. We have to regularly check them. We do some minor maintenance, annual engineering inspections, and then studies that dam safety studies or other minor maintenance that basically ensures the integrity of those structures. Quinte Conservation, our entire watershed is considered the source protection region for Quinte Conservation. Under the Clean Water Act in 2006, the source protection program was established in Ontario. We have 11 municipal drinking water systems that are within our jurisdiction and serving about half of the residents. So it is a big area serving a lot of people. So we have 4 groundwater systems, 7 surface water systems that we help those municipalities that have those systems make sure that they have proper policies and programs in place to protect those sources of drinking water. We do for those same municipalities, we do what's called a risk management service. This is a good example of a Category 2 program under the new changes. So only those municipalities that have drinking water systems would have a Category 2 program for risk management official services. And that's where we're out working with landowners to show them ways that they can on their property that they need to implement in order to protect the sources of municipal drinking water. So there was a lot of push several years ago to ensure that residents that had oil burning furnaces, that they had double walled oil tanks in their homes, so that if they had a leak, it wouldn't leak into the source protection region and contaminate the municipal drinking water. That's a small example of one of the programs that went on there. In terms of, I mentioned the planning and regulations program. We do that program to protect people and property from flooding, specifically from natural hazards. We do reduce the necessity for public-private expenditures for emergency operations and restoration. And some of the features that we regulate specific to, I would say, North Frontenac would be river and stream valleys, lake shorelines, unstable bedrock, flooding and erosion, those types of natural hazards that we would find in your area. We have a regulations program to it basically establishes setbacks and proper development around those features. We do a lot of monitoring. Some is mandatory, some is not mandatory. We implement provincial programs like the groundwater monitoring network. We have several groundwater wells located throughout the jurisdiction that we monitor on a regular basis to not only help us with the low water program, but also help us make sure that groundwater is in good condition, because we do water quality analysis of some of that work as well, so that we can detect long-term trends in water quality. Why so much land? 30,000 acres or 12,000 hectares. We own a lot of property. Some is large chunks that are areas of natural or scientific interest. Some of it has been protected just to ensure that they can be used as public education sites. Some for climate change mitigation. A lot of it is recreational opportunities. So I mentioned that we do have a hunting lease program where landowners can rent land from us so that they can have the opportunity to hunt on our property. And we also protect that as part of carbon sequestering and protect soil and water quality. So lots of those different programs of why conservation authorities own land. Our stewardship and outreach. We do a lot of that work with our local school boards, with lake associations, with individual shoreline landowners. We will partner with all of those people to ensure that we get proper management on the land to protect water quality and help with habitat restoration. And one of the focuses is the education. We know that if we educate the youth, they develop an appreciation for the environment, for the land, and that translates into when they get older, they're wanting to continue with that protection measures. We have a tree seedling program where we're working with our communities, our municipalities, that we help subsidize trees that they can then sell to their residents to plant along shorelines. We do a lot of land restoration work with municipalities and with landowners to plant trees on private property. We're part of the Trees Ontario program where we work with landowners and Tree Canada. We're a delivery agent for that program. We did a couple this year, 2023, where we did large scale plantings of I think our total this year was around 45,000 trees, which isn't a lot, but for a small organization, with limited staff, it's a good number of trees, and we're always looking to, expand that program because the public love it. They want people out there. They want to restore their property to have forest cover. So we'll work with different organizations to expand that. Watersheds Canada is another big partner for us. And that's the end of my ramblings. I know I went kind of quick. I had a lot of slides, but I just wanted to get basically a lot of that information out there, and I would certainly love to answer any questions if there is any.
Okay, council, here's your chance. Deputy Mayor.
Brad, you mentioned special levies for benefiting townships. So, if you have a small township, high on the watershed that needs a new water control structure, is that considered a benefit for that township or for the whole of the watershed?
So for speaking specifically about North Frontenac, I don't think that there's any dams within North Frontenac that we own, that we operate. So that wouldn't be part of that. North Frontenac wouldn't be a benefiting municipality. It would primarily be the municipality that the structure is located in, and then everything downstream from there, specifically for dam structures.
I'm asking more to compare Quinty with MVCA because we have a dam on Cache here, for
Mhm,
example, that's, I think it's multi-million dollars.
mhm.
Well, I'm getting a nod. At this time, our understanding is that it benefits the whole of the watershed, so we will not be imposed a special levy on that, thank goodness.
Right.
Would Quinty operate different?
No, we would operate the same. So we have dams that are located in Addington Highlands and in Central and Central Frontenac that are in the north part of sort of those systems. So everything downstream of there, so down, and that's primarily the rest of the watershed would be considered a benefiting municipality from that structure. So the cost would be split between those municipalities.
Could I just ask one question about representation on the board? We have a tiny area in the Quinty area. I guess it's the source of the Salmon River ultimately.
Yes, I believe, yeah.
Up around
yeah.
Cloyne.
Yep.
What level of representation do you need to have a board rep?
It's open, so any municipality that we have 18 municipalities, which includes North Frontenac. All of those members could have one or more, so it's set by population. So North Frontenac would qualify for one member on our board. I've been with the Conservation Authority for 20 years. I don't think you've ever appointed a board member in my time there, but you certainly have the right to do that as part of sort of the distribution of those.
Thank you.
Sorry, on that particular issue, you did invite us to offer up a member, and because I think the general feeling was that because our representation is such a small geographic area, and MVCA is the larger one,
Mhm.
we elected not to send a representative
Yeah.
to committee. Are there any other questions, Roy?
Just carrying on with that, do you see a benefit of us having a board member?
Part of the discussion, right? Like, all members have a say on our board. We had a board meeting last night. There was lengthy discussion on many items. If there's things that you want to see in particular happen in your municipality, then that can be done through the board. Having said that, if the council wanted something to occur within their municipality, you're a partner of Quinty Conservation, so you could request through Corey and I could work something out if there was something of interest, but it's up to you. It ends up costing the Conservation Authority to have board members come. North Frontenac's a long drive, so for me to pay a per diem, or mileage for a board member to come, it would be costly for me. However, that is definitely your right as a partner to have a membership on our board.
Councillor Fowler?
Yes, I'm looking at your map here and I see there's a lot of the Prince Edward County and all that area there is borders on Lake Ontario. Do you have any control over the water after it goes out of your system, out of your watershed into the lake?
No, so all of the Bay Quinte and Lake Ontario is governed by the St. Lawrence River Board. I'm not sure I got the name right, but we wouldn't have any input into that. But in 2018, when there was a lot of flooding, or not 2019, I believe it was a bad year for Lake Ontario. We got a lot of calls. What can you do to help? And really, it's nothing that we really have any jurisdictional power over or ability to influence. That's done by a joint commission, International Joint Commission.
Anyone else? Seeing none, Brad, thank you very much for your presentation. Sarah?
Thanks for having me.
Moved by Counselor Hurmer, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information a presentation from Brad McNevin, Chief Administrative Officer of the Quinte Conservation Authority regarding programs and services provided by QCA, and thanks him for his time spent today. And the council will consider assigning bylaw at the October 13th, 2023 regular council meeting to enter into a memorandum of understanding for QCA to provide non-mandatory programs and services to the township.
Are there any comments? Seeing none, in favor? Motion's carried. We have Sally McIntyre from the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority. Please join us.
Good day, everyone. So you can hear me okay? Okay. So is the PowerPoint showing on your screen? Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Great. Okay. Unfortunately, I missed the turnoff for Robertsville. So that's why I missed the first part. You know, I was just heading on down and missed it. So that's why I'm a few minutes late here. And it's beautiful. It was central, but it was beautiful. And I have to say that Ardoch Road at this time of year is unparalleled. I'll just say that. It's just gorgeous driving up that road. Okay, so I don't know how much Brad got into the category 1, 2, 3. Can I skip those slides or do I need to cover them?
I think we're okay. Sorry. Counselor Hudel wants to.
Okay, so I'll make it quick. So as most of you are likely aware that in 2019, our act was amended and over 2019, 2020, and they introduced new regulations. And in those regulations, they divided the full scope of services that we deliver into 3 categories. And the purpose of the meetings today is because the regulations prescribe that if we're going to continue category 2 and 3 services as of January 1 next year, we have to enter into individual agreements with each of our member municipalities. So that's why we're here today. So just to recap, category 1 is mandatory. If it's a service that is pertinent to the jurisdiction that the CA is operating in, they have to deliver it and the municipalities have to support funding it. The category 2 is a service that the municipality is either mandated to or is more or less required to adequately deliver on its mandate. And so the ones that we have identified for you are watershed planning, watershed monitoring, because this is input information that is used by your planning department on a regular basis. So if we weren't providing that information to you, you would have to be looking for other sources of that information. And then category 3 are things that aren't necessarily required either for the CA to deliver on or a municipality to deliver on, but they're good things to do. And so, for example, as I heard Brad speaking to, stewardship programs, education programs, support to the lake associations. These are all things that are valuable services that we provide to your residents. So in North Frontenac, your levy this year total was $33,000 plus. Of that, the category 2 and 3 programs and services was just $2,500. So it constitutes, in relative terms, a small percentage of your overall levy. And the way we looked at this was, of course, we had to break down all our costs by each program and service and categorize them. Are they a category 1 service, 2 service, 3 service, right? So what we found overall is that roughly 14% of our operating costs are allocated to category 2 and 3 services, and roughly 2% of our capital costs. So the important thing to realize is that that $2,500 is money you're already spending today. And what signing this agreement would do would allow us to continue, to collect that money from you to deliver those services in your community. So to recap some of the ones specific to our jurisdiction. So as I already mentioned, there's planning support. So we've done technical studies, and that information is provided to your township in support of you doing your official plan updates and OPAs and ZBAs, et cetera. We can provide quality assurance, quality control on technical studies, and we do so. We provide support to your lake associations, and if you are preparing policy or other documents, we can help support in the technical review of those to make sure that they're accurate. So for example, earlier this year, you may recall Bill 23 stated that conservation authorities could no longer do natural heritage reviews. So we worked with our municipalities and amongst the CAs to provide detailed guidelines to help municipal planners to be able to carry out that work themselves or with the aid of a consultant. So that would just be an example of some of the support we provide to your planning staff. In terms of our monitoring program, we have quite a lot of monitoring stations in North Frontenac, and we're able to do trend analysis and share that information with you. We have queries every year, from one lake association or another, or from councillors regarding the health of their lakes and any trending on that. That also helps us, of course, it supports our overall watershed management program. It's excellent information to provide, especially when you're thinking about setbacks from, new development on the lakes, et cetera. I won't go into the stewardship program again, but, we do very similar work to what Brad described for Quinte. And then we also have visitor services. So as Brad mentioned, we have various sites amongst CAs, conservation areas. And a nuance in the regulation is that if it's passive recreational in nature, it's considered category 1. So for us to put an entry off the road, to put in a parking lot, some outhouses and trails, that's all category 1. So when I'm talking visitor services, I'm really talking to those extra programs and services that we might deliver at a site. So in our case, we've run education programs out of the Milliken Tail. There's, a picnic shelter. There's a gatehouse. It's a heritage building where, people can rent the space. And we've done a lot of work over the past few years to try to make it full cost recovery. So the element that's for visitor services is actually just 10% now of the operating costs of those sites. So in that 10% spread amongst our 11 member municipalities. I mentioned the education program. Unfortunately, we did have to cut it during COVID. We were not able to sustain it. It was not feasible for us. And due to budgetary constraints, because that happened just within, the year of the province cutting our budget in half, we had to reallocate those funds. So we're now at a point where we want to reintroduce that program, but we're studying it. We want to make sure that we're doing it in a prudent and way that meets the needs of the school boards, but also the fiscal needs of the organization and our member municipalities. So we're looking at bringing it back in a much more modest form next summer. So just as a summer program for starters, while we assess what the opportunities are for us to continue to provide an outdoor education program to area schools. So it's at a much reduced budget. So the agreement that we're looking for, reflects that watershed approach, where we're all kind of in this together, much like county government, but at a watershed level, delivering programs and services at a watershed. Across the watershed. We've structured the agreement so it's based upon current costs. So our current costs are roughly 14% of operating, 2% of capital, so that there's that built-in knowledge of what it's going to look like going forward. We've structured it as a 5-year term with a 6-month termination clause. And basically that would say that before the end of each fiscal, if you don't want us to continue it into the next year, you would let us know, at least that 6 months out. So in terms of the specific dollars for Frontenac, out of your total levy, as I mentioned, of $33,391, this would be roughly $2,500. So that's what the financial cost is today and would be going forward.
So Sally, if that 33,000 goes up, as it will, you've got us max at 14 and 2%, so those will increase incrementally.
Yes.
Basically, whatever, if the increase was 1,000, they go up like $20 or something.
Yes, this year, and it varies, of course, year over year based upon what your assessment value is in the jurisdiction. So for 2024, the most recent numbers we got, the current value assessment is just under 1%. So North Frontenac pays 0.9% of the costs of the entire jurisdiction.
Deputy Mayor?
So at the end of all this, when we sign the memorandum, and I think I understand we're capped at 14% for category 2 and 3 of
Yes,
total operating in the future
correct,
until there's a new memorandum.
correct.
So at the end of this process, there's really been no change as a result of this bill. We're simply acknowledging that we're paying for this,
Correct,
still getting the same stuff.
correct,
So the bill just created some paperwork.
correct.
Certain someone somewhere else doesn't see it that way, but I agree with you. Are there any other questions?
I understand.
Exactly. Oh. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate having you.
My pleasure.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information a presentation from Sally McIntyre, General Manager of Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority regarding programs and services provided by MVCA, and thanks her for her time spent today.
Any final comments? In favor? Carried. The next one, Sam.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Chief Administrative Officer's administrative report entitled Programs and Services Memorandum of Understanding with Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority, and the council approves the draft memorandum of understanding with MVCA, and the council will consider by law later in the meeting to sign the memorandum of understanding.
Comments? In favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, folks. We have no delegations. Item 7A, adoption of minutes.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council adopts the minutes as circulated of a special meeting held on September 6, 2023 regarding the township strategic plan, a regular meeting held on September 7th, 2023, and a regular meeting of the Personnel and Audit Committee dated September 12th, 2023.
Are there any comments? In favor? Resolution's carried. Business arising out of the minutes.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Hermer, whereas at their meeting on December 16th, 2022, council passed resolution 48022, receiving for information Counselor Ingalls' administrative report entitled Township Statement of Intention Regarding Climate Change. And the township states its intention to consider climate change mitigation actions in future decisions making processes, and that Council Ingalls will meet with interested individuals and provide recommendations to council. Therefore, be it resolved that council receives for information an email dated September 2nd, 2023 from Jill Wiley, resident, providing an article from Epcot Times about a world climate declaration from the Global Climate Intelligence Group, and Ms. Wiley advised she was disappointed that council passed a resolution about climate change that was worded in a way that seemed to be based more on ideology than scientific facts. And that Ms. Wiley requested that council remove the resolution passed last winter about global warming or modify the resolution in a way that is meaningful to North Frontenac residents. And the council recommends Mayor Lickey provide a response to Ms. Wiley addressing her concerns, affirming her that the township will not be rescinding the resolution.
Comments? Deputy Mayor?
I guess I'm wondering why this is even before us. We get emails about issues from various people. We don't normally bring them to council.
It was addressed to the entire council. Is that right?
I still find it a waste of time that we already decided on this. We have a comment from the public. They don't like it. That happens all the time. About issues we decide on. I just don't understand why it's here.
Well, it's on the agenda, so we're dealing with it here. Anybody else have any other comments?
Sure.
Right,
Are we gonna see your comments before you send it out?
no, I wasn't planning on it. I did have a rough draft, basically said we understand this and whatever, and we're not gonna do this.
But it was addressed to all council. Not to the mayor.
Well, what you're saying here is that if you approve this, it's kind of a double-edged sword if you look at it. If you approve that the mayor responds, okay, then you're trusting the mayor to respond satisfactorily. If you don't approve it, then you're sort of saying that, well, there's an issue with the entire process, and I don't think we want to go there. Yes, sir, Deputy Mayor.
We could decide not to approve it and then there would be silence.
I'm sorry, we could, what do you mean? We didn't explain it to me?
We could vote this resolution down and then you would not respond. And that would be the end of it.
I don't know, I think documents say that, or information that comes in, basically looking for a response, and that's the professional way to respond. That's my opinion.
Well, my opinion is that we get such requests all the time, and this one is being treated specially. We don't always respond to every request.
I respond to every request that comes in. Okay. So if I get an email, then I will say, this is what I'm going to do, and I will respond. So that's the way I work. Stephanie?
I would hope we all respond to the emails that we get. That was actually one of the things that people brought up quite a bit when we were all running for council, was the lack of responsibility to respond to certain things such as emails. So I did not respond to that because I assumed that you were going to, Mr. Mayor. I would have no problem with you responding to that. It cannot be ignored.
That was one of the reasons we did bring it here, because it could have been 7 responses. And that's always a danger. And if the minute one of us responds, all of a sudden we have a council meeting.
So, sorry, go ahead, Roy. Sorry.
So I'll approve this because I agree it needs to be responded, but I do agree with the deputy mayor. There are many emails that were sent to us as a council that we don't respond to, and I would just like to know why we're responding to this.
In response, the reason we submitted or brought this one to council was because of the nature and the importance.
So maybe we need to have some sort of direction as to who responds to something that is sent to everyone. Because generally speaking, for example, as an example, there's emails sent to 2 of us. I generally speak to the other person before I respond, just like I did the other day. I don't think anyone needs to take offense that they weren't the one that responded to it, but maybe there needs to be some sort of direction. So 7 or 8 people are not answering the same email, and we're all singing from the same songbook.
That becomes a problem because all you need is one individual to be missing a sheet in that songbook and respond somewhat differently. So we are responding as a group. So, and that's exactly right. And part of the issue is when something comes in and it comes into all of us, we don't have a process that I know of. We're about to have one, I believe. It's going to be the mayor that's going to respond. Or if there's 2 or 3, then especially if Stephanie and I, sometimes Roy and I will say, you respond or I'll respond, and this is what's going to be. Corey?
So in the past, this is how we've done it. If it's some email that is addressed to all of council, we've brought it to the council table, so you could formulate a response that would be good to come from all of you. And that's kind of the way we've done it throughout the past. So that's why it got put on there. And I actually suggested that to Mayor Lectie because that's the way we've done it. And to me, it made sense. So again, we have 7 people responding to the same email. that's a pretty hard one for anybody to receive 7 emails, or three and then 4 don't, right? So it's kind of like it's, to me, this is a great way to do it. It kind of keeps everything above board, and everybody sees the same response.
Right, Counselor Fowler?
Yeah, I'm looking at this thing and, she's talking about, passive resolution on climate change that was worded in a way that seemed to be based on ideology and rather than, scientific facts. I sort of agree with it. Just my 2 cents.
Deputy Mayor?
There's exactly where the problem comes, because as counselors, we're not all obligated to have the same opinions on every issue. Part of the strength of a council like this is that you have a variety of opinions. And for example, we all get an email, for example, about short-term rentals. Somebody's having a problem on their lake because of short-term rentals. They're really mad. They send out an email to all counselors. We may have 7 different opinions about what should happen. And I don't want to be muzzled by requiring a response simply from the mayor on an issue. I don't think that's right. We could have a complaint about development on a lake. A lake association could send out an email to all counselors. I might have an opinion that's different from Stephanie's, for example. And I don't think individual counselors should be kept quiet on such issues.
Regent?
So no one is suggesting anyone be muzzled, but I think we should give our constituents a little bit of credit. I do not get emails about things that have nothing to do with Ward 1. I don't. So if I get an email to do with my ward, and sometimes it's both Wayne and I, as I've already said, we have a conversation, what are we going to say? Sometimes it's me and the mayor. Often it is because of the size of Ward 1. They like to include the mayor. So we have a conversation. No one's suggesting that anyone sitting here be muzzled and not speak to their constituents, but I do not agree that 7 people need to respond to an email and say 7 different things. Because I do agree we're all entitled to our opinion, but this is also a team and we need to respond accordingly.
So on that, sort of trying to thread the actual needle here, this particular topic was an approved motion by this council. So if we want to change that motion, it could come here. Here's an opportunity for it. I read very carefully Ms. Wiley's email. I disagree, Councilor Fowler, with what you're looking at. And that's your right. But once we pass that motion, that's it, unless we as a council have a reason to reverse it. So, and we've done that once or twice, but we try not to. Deputy Mayor.
We've been here before, since 2010 when I started, and the agreement, according to my understanding, is that you have a discussion, various views are expressed, council passes a resolution. I, for example, may vote against that resolution, but the resolution passes. That does not mean that I can't subsequently tell people what I think of the resolution. I do have to treat it with respect. I do have to say, this is the decision of council. I'm on that council, but I happen to disagree with what council decided. That in the past has been allowed.
And I support that. Right. So in this particular case, and maybe, I don't know how to handle this. If we keep the status quo, which seems to work, it comes back here, we have a brief discussion, it is what it is. We're being asked to reverse our direction as a council. That's what this individual has asked, and we're just saying no. Okay. If this comes in, what we could do is the CAO could send something out and say, the mayor's going to respond to this. Leave it at that. And if anybody objects, then it will come back to council, depending on what the topic is. Okay, so any final comments? Deputy Mayor?
Again, in this case, I guess by recommending that the mayor respond, the mayor must respond in accordance with the resolution unless there's an agreement of council. Is that correct?
Okay, yeah, exactly.
And I guess I'm in favor of the resolution as written.
All right, in favor? That resolution is carried. Communications, section A.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information Section A items of the clerk's administrative report entitled Communications of Interest.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Communication section B, action items, B1, Charlotte Lake Interagency Group. Invitation to building community connections.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information an email from Louise Moody, Executive Director of Rural Frontenac Community Services, advising the Charlotte Lake Interagency Group is hosting a meeting on September 28th, 2023 to build connections with the agency's service clubs and face serving the community, and extends the invitation to a member of council to represent North Frontenac, and that a member will attend the meeting on behalf of council.
Comments, volunteers? Counselor Fowler. Are you intending, are you offering yourself as the volunteer to go?
I know, but you know. There'd have to be some juggling around.
Well.
So the 28th is busy, right? We have the bus tour, we have focus groups, and now we have this.
Yeah.
So for the focus groups, it's more that the consultant recommended that staff and council not be at the focus groups, just at the town hall meetings. So the focus groups really is for, because I think what he had said at our meeting last time was that it would be more they would be more likely to speak and feel without staff and council there and provide their thoughts. So the focus groups really, you shouldn't have to worry about. But yeah, the other stuff you guys, I'm sure we could also have 2 seats if we needed to.
Does anybody else have any comments on this? Anyone else want to go? Counselor Hermer, Counselor Wu, Counselor Deputy Mayor? No? You're the bus tour, okay. So, I appreciate Counselor Reason's interest. I'm just wondering if Counselor Fowler is more close to that side of the township. So Ward 3. But if we want both, we can ask for both. So what would you prefer? 2 names or 1? 2? 2? Okay. Counselor Hermer? 2 or 1 in person? Counselor Hoodle? Okay. 2 people being Stephanie or Counselor Stephanie Regent and Counselor Fred Fowler. Okay. In favor of that resolution then? Carried. Dave Dahlman, resident, Fire Guards, Fire Smart and Strategic Planning.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information an email dated September 5th, 2023 from Dave Dahlman, resident, advising North Frontenac has been the site of several tornadoes, blowdowns, and a derecho, leaving significant amounts of dead wood in our forests, and the wood provides fuel for very hot and potential fast-moving fires. That as Mr. Dahlman advised, that the North Frontenac hasn't had forest fires for almost 100 years, and there has been limited logging. He encourages council to include in North Frontenac's strategic priorities a coordinated effort with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to establish an accelerated program of logging, including fire guards around homes and cottages, accompanied by a fire smart program. And that council will consider the suggestion from Mr. Dahlman along with all other comments received from residents at their strategic planning sessions. The council encourages all residents to provide comments on the strategic plan through Engage Frontenac.
Comments? In favor of the motion? Carried. Administrative reports.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Regent, be resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled proposed 2024 council meeting dates. And that council instructs the clerk to prepare the 2024 council meeting schedule and provide it to council for review at an upcoming meeting based on the following frequency, day of the week, and time of day.
Comments? This is essential.
This is for the whole year. Yeah, okay, so, I think the night meetings in the summer months are important. So if we go back to the Thursdays, and I think we were June, July, August, September, that's correct? Yeah, maybe we do May, June, July, August, September.
Counselor Good is not here. And I know he is adamant that we do not do evening meetings because no one else, we don't get any greater attendance than we do during a day meeting. And remember, this time around, we do videotape the actual meetings. So that goes part way to saying, alleviating the fact that the residents don't get to see the council in action because of the times.
My preference would, I agree with the mayor that we have not had really public attendance. Got more attendance today than we ever had in an evening meeting, I think. So my preference would be to have 9 AM meetings throughout the year, every 3 weeks, including the summer.
Mr. Hermer?
Well, my comment is, I don't regard a 5 o'clock meeting as being an evening meeting to begin with. It's late afternoon.
Are you in favor of having those or us maintaining them in the summer? Or extending that, or what is your preference?
Well, if we're gonna call it an evening meeting, I'd like to see it in the evening. I mean, 5 o'clock's a really bad time. That's supper hour. A lot of people that work 9 to 5 couldn't be here in time anyway.
Counselor Fowler?
I don't mind having it in the daytime at all. The evening is just not used to it, and luckily I didn't forget to come.
Okay. Okay. Regent?
So if 5 o'clock's too early, we can make them later if you like. I have no problem with the evening meetings in the summer. Again, it's something people asked for. And we need to at least make an attempt. We can't be say we're listening and not do anything about it. So I'm fully in favor of evening meetings in the summertime. I particularly wouldn't pick Fridays for daytime meetings, but that's just my opinion.
So we did have some delegations during the evening meetings, particularly the last meeting, and I think it was commented on that she appreciated that we had an evening meeting. There was another delegation from Mazenal Lake. Now, I don't know if they would have came during the morning meeting, but they did come in the afternoon meeting. And it's not the fact that people show up, it's the fact that there's an opportunity for them to show up. So to me, that's open government, right? You're giving them the opportunity. If they don't want to come, they don't want to come, but there's the opportunity for them to come. And by having the meetings late afternoon or evening, gives them that opportunity where the people who are working do not have that opportunity in the morning.
Counselor Fowler?
I remember a time when we had our meetings on Mondays, and I thought it was a great day for having these meetings. And if you needed to do it in the evening, say, accommodate somebody like that, we could do it then.
So overall, are you in favor of us keeping the meetings, like having at least 4 meetings in the summer at 5 o'clock and the rest on Friday mornings at 9 o'clock? Or do you want us to do away with the evening meetings? Or the late afternoon meetings?
Or do I? I'm on the fence with that, but I did prefer the day meetings myself.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, one more comment. I think there's some value in consistency. So given that, even though I said I'd rather have morning meetings throughout the year, in 2023, we had some evening meetings. I think in 2024, we should do the same thing or expand it a bit, just for consistency's reason. Thursday, 5 PM is okay with me. Friday, 9 AM is okay with me. But while summer visitors are here, I kind of agree with Roy that even if they don't show up, they know they can.
So I need to ask CAO and the clerk this, what do you need from us today exactly?
So what I'd like to get from this report is to be able to prepare the schedule for 2024. It's nice to have the schedule ahead, because people are looking to book delegations, and I really only have 3 meetings left to book, and then we're starting to get into the next calendar year. So we are booking, like, sometimes I'm booking ahead 3 meetings for delegations and president. So it does seem very early, but I knew there was going to be discussion. So I really do need to, like, I'm hoping to nail down some of what you'd like to see for your 2024 schedule. I mean, if we don't do it, I'd really like to see it for sure for October, just because again, I'm starting to look at booking. I'm gonna look at November, December now, so. So the one thing too that perhaps, I know you're talking about summer evening meetings, but I'm not sure if you had any thought about them all year round as well. So I know one of our neighboring townships, they do every 2 weeks at 4 o'clock, that's Central. Addington Highlands, prior to the recent change, we're doing 1 meeting in the daytime, then the next meeting was evening, the next meeting was daytime, that type of thing to kind of accommodate both. So for agencies and things like that, it's easier for them to come during the day. So when you see people like MVC, it's easier for them. For people like residents, like the lady you seen at the last meeting, it's easier to come in the evening. So that might be an opportunity. I'm not really sure. I just want to put it out there.
Counselor Hoodle?
Well, I would be in favor of all year round evening meetings, but that's a good option, but
I wouldn't do that. I don't want to be driving home at,
So that's-
10 o'clock at night,
so-
middle of winter.
let's increase it for this year. So our meetings are every 3 weeks during normal part.
So prior to last year, our meetings were every 3 weeks, except for June, July, and August,
So-
which we went monthly.
So I'm happy with every 3 weeks, but I would increase 1 evening meeting and make it May, June, July, August, September. So let's increase it slowly, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so. Let's do this 2 ways. Initially, maybe you're gonna stop because it's a procedural issue. Do we want to stay with the summer schedule that we used for 2023 for the 4 meetings? That's the first one. And if we agree to that, then we can expand it to 5. Okay. So can we do that? Okay. All right, maintaining the 2023 summer schedule for evening meetings for June, July, August, first one in September. Who's in favor of that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 2. Who is it? Okay, thank you. That's carried. The second one is, who's in favor of adding a May evening meeting starting at 5 o'clock? Yes.
Why are we reducing the number of meetings in summer? I know they do at the county. Does the workload actually decrease here during the summer or not? I suspect not. Why don't we have a meeting every 3 weeks throughout the summer then? Didn't really understand that this year.
It's been a few years since we did that. Part of it is that we have staff on vacation, so we are seeing people not here, not even just in this room, but the phones and things like that. The other part is there doesn't seem to be as much business through those months as far as people wanting to be delegations. We get a huge push for delegations from January to April. I'm usually full and having to be discretionary and add extra. And that's a lot of times because we're looking at budgets and things like that. So that's why you're seeing those. And then you get your year-end report outs from like Camium and those kind of things, the consultants that work for us. So we see a huge push there. Then it kind of goes a bit quieter for that type of thing, for our requests from residents and delegations. So that's kind of what kind of pushed us to get the moving with less through June, July, and August. And then it picks up again in the fall. So but again, it's really whatever works for council.
Okay, so we have decided that we were going to maintain the evening schedule. Now the question on the floor is, do we want to add one additional meeting earlier in the year? So for a total of 5 meetings starting at 5 o'clock and the rest of all our meetings, the special meetings starting at 9. Yeah, I just thought to do that. I'm over. In favor of that? Opposed? Carried. Okay. I won't either. I actually don't mind them. Because just before the meeting, you can spend an hour or two going through this, make sure you know what you're saying, what you've got, right?
So we're in favor still for Friday morning meetings? We haven't decided that yet, right?
Question. So do you want your evening meetings on Thursday and your morning evenings on Friday or Thursday or a different day?
Do we want to maintain the status quo Thursday evenings and Friday mornings?
I'd like to talk about the Friday morning meetings. Is that up for debate? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, everything's on the floor right now.
Is there, just before I ask the other question, is there a day of the week that is better for the office if it was not a Friday? Does it matter?
Doesn't sound like it, no. So for getting agenda out and stuff, we have a 7-day.
Agenda is a 5-day, you're getting it 7 days ahead just because the 5th day would be Sunday and I'm not here. So that's why you're getting it 7 days. It is in the procedural bylaw 5-day advance. So if you move your meeting date and you may only get 5 days with the agenda. You want it 7 days, we just amend the procedural bylaw and I can do 7 days, whatever you want.
So in other words, we'd still get the agenda Friday morning for a Thursday meeting? That's doable.
You emphasize morning, it's probably more like 4 o'clock Friday afternoon.
That just reduces prep time by a little bit if you're busy doing other stuff. But it's doable.
In my opinion, we should leave the schedule exactly as it is. Vern, you've been quiet on this one. What do you think?
Well, like I said,
Not doing, don't forget the 5 o'clock. That's a good topic.
oh, you asked me what I thought.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Counselor Fowler?
Yeah, I'm okay with the Thursday and then the Friday for the daytime.
Just remember, we all have schedules with other meetings and we're on different council, you and I and so on. And they all have specific times. And we've now, whether we like it or not, we've managed to schedule our time. Say, we know this is coming in, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. You start changing that.
Well, we know what the dates are gonna be for all these meetings throughout the whole year. We can easily schedule our activities around that.
Okay. Okay, so. Final time, we were adding one meeting. One summer meeting and starting on Thursday nights. And we're adding, and the schedule will be 5 summer meetings total, starting at 5 o'clock at night on Thursdays. And all the other meetings throughout the year will be Friday morning, starting at 9 a.m. Okay, in favor of that? Carried.
One more question.
Oops.
I always have one more question. So, so do you want to have the 3 weeks throughout the summer? Or do you want to continue with the 1 a month in the summer? That's the other.
I kind of like the 1 a month. There is vacation and we have issues. Remember, we had some, when I'm on vacation, we had to schedule a special meeting, whatever. So let's stay with the 4 weeks, with 1 a month. We can always schedule a special meeting. We absolutely had to. Okay, do you have enough information? All right. While Tara's doing this, let's take a 5-minute break till 10:45. Okay?
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Regent. Be resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled proposed 2024 council meeting dates. And the council instructs the clerk to prepare the 2024 council meeting schedule and provide it to council for review at an upcoming meeting based on the following. Every 3 weeks except monthly through June, July, and August. On Thursdays at 5:00 PM through May, June, July, August, and September for 5 meetings, and the rest on Fridays at 9:00 AM.
Final comments? In favor? Motion's carried. Item 10B, Session Road Allowance Closure, McNichol.
Can I? Yes, so. I received an email from the applicant. So it came in on Wednesday night, but of course I didn't read it till yesterday morning. Asking if this application could be deferred. He'd like an opportunity to speak to his neighbors about some options before council makes a decision on the application.
So do we have to then have a resolution to defer? Okay,
If you're agreeable to that.
well, if you read the resolution then.
Do you want to just defer it? Okay, I can do this one. Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Concession Road Closure McNichol, and that based on the policy for the sale of and disposition of land not to sell road allowances, which result in a negative impact on neighboring owners' land, council denies the application to close, stop up, and sell this road allowance. The council instructs the clerk to advise the applicant and adjacent property owners of council's decision.
Okay. Really wasn't what I was looking for. I just wanted you to. Defer. Okay, yes, can we do that instead?
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Ingalls. Be it resolved that council defers item 10B until the October 13th, 2023 council meeting at the request of the applicant.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Shore Road Allowance Closure and Sale by Law, Williams and Witten, 10C.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Regent. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Shore Road Allowance Closure and Sale Bylaw, Williams and Witt. And that as required by bylaw 2023, all that part of the Shore Road Allowance adjacent to Lot 10, Concession 9, Geographic Township of Miller, being Part 1 on Registered Plan 13R 22940, Big Lake, and all that part of the Shore Road Allowance in front of Lot 8, Registered Plan 417, Geographic Township of Miller being Part 1 on Registered Plan 13R 22959, Grindstone Lake, be declared as surplus and sold to the adjoining owner. Appraisal of the properties are not necessary as these are shore road allowances. The council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to stop up, close, and sell a portion of the shore road allowance.
Comments? In favor? The motion is carried. Road allowance closure bylaw, Barton Road, Witten.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Road Allowance Closure Barton Road, Witten. And that is required by bylaw 2023, all that part of Barton Road adjacent to Lot 8 and Lot 8A on registered plan 417, geographic township of Miller, being part 3 on registered plan 13R 22959. Be declared as surplus and sold to the adjoining owner. Appraisals of the property are not necessary as this is a shore road allowance, or this is a road allowance, and that council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting, stop up, close, and sell a portion of the road allowance.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 10E, Deputy Mayor Inglis, possible purchase of a township electric vehicle.
Moved by Counselor Ingalls, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information Deputy Mayor Ingalls' administrative report entitled Possible Purchase of a Township Electric Vehicle, and that the purchase of an electric truck will not be considered until 2025 or later, and not before there are 2 or more competing brands available, and that the Public Works Manager will consider purchasing a battery electric sedan or SUV type vehicle when a replacement is warranted.
Comments? Counselor Fowler,
I'm not in favor of this.
would you like to elaborate?
No, I just don't think we need it at this time.
Counselor Hermer?
Oh, I have a question for our fire chief. Eric, I noticed on the American News Network, there's several American fire chiefs that are quite concerned when it comes to suppressing a fire in an EV. Do you have any concerns about that?
Mr. Mayor, through you, my concern with electric vehicles and thermal runaway is a concern for suppression, but they are developing tools to slow that process down. So as we evolve as a fire department and look at those services, we will make a request to council for the appropriate equipment to deal with that.
Anybody else? Counselor Regent?
Sorry, I mean, I've looked at this. I'm just curious, like, what is the main reason that this might be a good idea?
The main reason is to take a small action on behalf of the resolution we passed earlier to try to mitigate climate change.
Counselor Hermer?
Well, when you talk about the countries that have emitted CO2 pollutions, China is responsible for about 1/3 of it. Canada's contributions are just under about 1.5 to 2%. So, I mean, and then you look at what contribution North Frontenac Township would make, it's minimal.
I'm going to respond to that. I thought Deputy Mayor did a pretty good report detailing why we should look at this. I'm not in favor of the motion, but I do think the report is good, and I do think the Deputy Mayor has the right intentions. I just don't think we need it at this point in time, but every vehicle we buy from now on, we should be looking at this. Other townships and other jurisdictions are doing this, and there's no reason why we shouldn't. We do, or I do have concerns about, like for instance, with our CBO has a truck he takes home every day. That's a lot of highway driving, plus all the back roads. He might do better with a hybrid when half his day is in the back roads and he's under 40 kilometers an hour. But we still have to move that way. And the other thing, this goes to the fire chief. I had an opportunity about a year ago to talk to a OPP accident reconstruction specialist. And his concern was not the fire, it was the amount of electricity that's stored in the vehicle when the vehicle is in an accident and fails, and if the vehicle's not properly grounded, then what happens? So I guess that would be part of your concern as well.
Mr. Mayor, through you, that'll become part of the training and learning process for the fire department, is dealing with electric vehicles. And I will say this, they're already here. So we need to adapt our training to accommodate what our residents are buying and using on our roads.
Councillor Hoodle?
So I thought it was a good report also, but I'm just interested, how much does staff drive a day? Like there's a limit to these batteries, so I'd just like to know, do we keep track of that? And if we don't, can we start keeping track of it so we know in the future when we're looking at vehicles?
Corey?
So each vehicle we have has a log. So yes, daily travel is logged in each township vehicle.
So are we over 450 kilometers in some of them?
Not typically in a day. So some of them we would be for sure, not all of them for sure. So one thing we would have to keep in mind though would be, so I think about when we had the Dare Show go through, our trucks were running for 10, 12 hours. So would we be, and again, that's very rare that it happens, but I'm just not sure how we would manage something like that in the future, potentially with an electric vehicle. I just don't know how we would charge them in that time. But again, that's all something we could look at in the future and worry about that time.
Yeah, because we're gonna have to look at it in the future because as we know, GM, Ford, and Chrysler are making gas engines after 2030, right?
Yeah, General Motors also told me that 2022, their entire vehicle fleet would be electric, so it's not there. But anyway, I do think the report is good. I do think we can, we have to look at every vehicle we buy from now on. We should be looking at a potential either a hybrid or a full electric vehicle, whatever suits our mandate or our needs. And, that's my opinion. So this particular resolution, I believe, is well intentioned, but I don't think it's the resolution for us at this time. Deputy Mayor?
So how would you change the resolution? I mean, the resolution asks for us to not do something
I know.
at this point,
I know.
and to consider doing something in the future. What is less controversial than that?
I just think the resolution could be changed that the Township of North Frontenac instructs staff, or the Council of North Frontenac instructs staff to always consider, when replacing vehicles, to always consider the potential for a fully electric or a hybrid electric vehicle in making their decision.
I would not support that. A hybrid electric vehicle does not solve the issue that this attempts to address. A hydroelectric vehicle produces CO2. As the report shows, apart from the production from the vehicle process, if a battery electric vehicle is charged overnight, it uses mainly non-fossil electric energy.
Anybody else have any comments? I'd like to call this for a vote. All in favor of this
A recorded vote, please.
recorded vote?
Can we read the resolution again?
Pardon me? This resolution's on the table. Okay?
Can we read it before we vote?
Yes,
Just read
we
it again,
can.
please.
I did go into Consumer Reports last evening and looked up their opinions. And they were discouraging plug-in hybrids. They were encouraging hybrid, and they were encouraging all electric. 2022 report. though.
Could I ask a question before we do this?
Sure,
Yeah.
yes.
So there's a couple of references to warm weather ranges. I'd be the first to admit, I don't know enough about EVs, but there's a couple references to warm weather ranges. So what is the difference between how productive it would be to have something like this in the warm weather versus the 6 months of winter we get here?
Deputy Mayor,
the cold weather, the coldest weather performance drops by 25 to 30%, but that's not 6 months, that's probably 2 months. It's a gradual process. My own vehicle, for example, has dropped 5 or 6% in the colder mornings.
What do we do when we've got staff out in an EV driving around the back roads where there's no cell service and something happens and they can't even contact us? I know that sounds a bit dramatic, but I'm just this is the kind of stuff that goes through my mind when I saw this morning.
We would have the same problem if staff's driving a gas engine and something goes wrong, they don't have cell service.
No, but is it possible that I mean, I can't imagine someone's going out of here without enough gas. So is there a difference between that and my vehicle's not charged fully? These are the things that
Well, if I'm not charged fully, I'm not going out, but a combustion engine is more likely to break down on an electric car.
Well, that's true, but if you need fuel, you can go to a gas station and in 5 or 10 minutes, you're completely filled and away you go.
But Councilor Region's argument was the cell phone, and it doesn't matter what you break down, and if you don't have cell coverage, you're not cell coverage.
Well, that's true. Now, just keep in mind, we're not talking about which vehicle is better. All we're saying here is, I hope. I'm paraphrasing John, and I shouldn't be doing that, but I'm going to anyway. And basically, we're looking at asking the township staff to always look from now on at whether or not an electric version or electric vehicle is something we should consider every time we buy a new vehicle. Councillor Fowler.
That should be a different resolution.
Yeah, it is. So this resolution is on the table.
So this resolution is I just want to be very clear about this. This resolution is to possibly, maybe sort of consider next time we need a vehicle, we might buy an EV. I'm being a little, but is that what we're talking about?
Essentially. All right.
So this resolution on the table from Deputy Mayor Inglis actually is starting 2015
Right.
to look at that. He's not asking us to look at that now, but 2025 is what he's asking, and that's the resolution that's on the table right now.
It actually refers specifically to trucks after 2025, SUVs and sedans right now.
That's one of our townships in the area, but just bought 2 Ford Escape SUVs. Fully electric, 43,000 each, not bad. So, anyway, we have this, sorry, Stephanie.
May I ask a question regarding the cost of fire suppression equipment and what that might look like for an EV? Because I'm quite sure that's got to be expensive, obviously. Do we know what that would cost? That's another cost to the township. Should we purchase an electric vehicle? Yes.
Mr. Mayor, through you, it will incur costs for training on suppression, the specific equipment to halt thermal runaway. I really can't provide you an estimate or a guesstimate on it.
Councillor Hoodle.
But just to go back to Councilor Region's comment, it's not an increase in cost because we're buying electric vehicles. It's an increase in cost because the public is buying electric vehicles. So the chief will have to get this gear regardless if we buy one or not. If you look out there, there's electric vehicles all over the place. So you're gonna have to have that fire suppressant regardless.
Councillor Hermer.
Well, it's my understanding from what I've heard from different fire chiefs in the United States, it's not a problem of suppression. It's a problem of how they're contained. They can't get suppressant on it to put it out. So in most cases, they just have to stand back and let these batteries burn out. In some cases, it takes a day or better.
I kind of think that's what the fire chief and the CAO should be looking at, and basically my comment is sooner rather than later. So I'd like to see that, whatever it is, whether it's a resolution coming back to council or I think we should be moving on the training. I'll leave that up to everybody who knows much better than I do. Stephanie.
No, I'd say about 2 months ago, we watched several videos at training regarding how you deal with EVs that are on fire. And it's not a simple process by any stretch. And to say there are electric vehicles all over the place here, I would highly disagree with that. I think I've seen maybe 6 all summer. You
There's
know,
one on the parking lot right now, and every time I go to Perth, there's gotta be about 20 Teslas, like.
I'm not talking about
No.
Plevna. I'm talking about my experience. Okay, we all have one. Somebody asked me, why doesn't your store have an EV charging station? I looked into it. I spoke to several people. I looked at the research. I did a lot of research on whether or not that made sense, and it doesn't. I'd be happy to put an EV charging station there. It's revenue, sort of, but the need for it, right? So it's not just that. The fire, an EV catching on fire is a concern. Google it. You don't have to be on the fire department to know that that's a concern for the township. This is my opinion. We all have one.
Okay, I want to draw this discussion to an end. Tara's going to read the resolution. We're voting on the resolution that came with the agenda package.
Moved by Counselor Ingalls, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information Deputy Mayor John Ingalls' administrative report entitled Possible Purchase of a Township Electric Vehicle, and that the purchase of an electric truck will not be considered until 2025 or later, and not before there are 2 or more competing brands available, and that the Public Works Manager will consider purchasing a battery electric sedan or SUV type vehicle when a replacement is warranted.
Okay, any final comments before I call the vote? Or actually, the vote's recorded, so you can call the vote. Go ahead.
Counselor Fowler,
I'm against.
Counselor Hermer,
No.
Counselor Hudel,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ingalls,
Yes.
Counselor Regent,
No.
Mayor Lickey.
No,
The motion is defeated, 2-4.
thank you. I fully expect you to bring back another version of this.
I don't know about that.
Okay, well. Okay, the next item is the Kashwackamack waste site update.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Regent. Be resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Action Plan Kashwackamack Waste Site Update. And the council approves proceeding with the required site meetings and Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry permit applications. The council approves staff contacting the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks to negotiate revising the schedule for phase 2. And that details regarding the additional funding required to complete the work will be brought forward for council's consideration during the 2024 budget process. And that the Public Works Manager will report to council regarding the outcome of the discussions with the MECP and the status of permits at a future meeting.
Darwin?
Mr. Mayor, we have Stephanie Reeder on the line from Cambion, and she's been really leading this issue with Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks to address the compliance concerns at the cache site. They developed the action plan that previously came to council and was approved. We've had subsequent comments from Ministry of Environment that Stephanie's dealing and responding to, and she's currently dealing with Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to get access and approval to drill additional wells on the adjacent Crown land. So that's the status of the project right now, and Stephanie's available as well to respond to any comments that council might have.
Council, questions? Darwin, at this point in time, what I gather, there's no immediate threat or whatever. This is just to make sure everything's on board and we're monitoring it and we're on top of things should they get out of hand.
That's right. The additional wells monitoring the groundwater, and if there are, if there are implications offsite from the existing waste site, and maybe Stephanie could expand on that.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. We're at this point, The idea is that we know that there is elevated concentrations along the south property boundary. And so these are the next steps that are required to determine how far that goes beyond the property, which is currently all Crown land. And to help determine what we need to do, what the next steps are going to be with respect to having care and control of that contamination. So I believe at one of the early reports to council, it was discussed that the long term or the end game of this will likely be the township entering into or receiving some type of an easement for groundwater rights on the adjacent property from the Crown. But this is the first step, is to determine how far off site there is potential contamination. Because right now we can only speculate based on having testing only on the property, the township property.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Darrell, anything else?
No, the only other, originally we thought we might have been drilling wells this season. But we're hoping to work on the approvals, resolve access issues, and then do that work next season. And as a result, there will be some budget impacts here, but we've deferred that until the 2024 budget process rather than bring it forward now.
Thank you. Okay, so any final comments or questions? In favor of the resolution? It's carried.
Thanks,
you.
Stephanie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So external committees, boards, task force, notes and reports, etc. Cal Library Joint Fire Committee.
Regarding this resolution about the minutes for this calendar very thing, I'm supposed to be the alternate member to attend those meetings.
Fred, could you hang on to that till we
Okay.
read the resolution,
Yep,
and then you can have your piece, have your say.
Moved by Counselor Ingalls, second by Counselor Fowler, be resolved that council receives for information the minutes of a meeting of the Kelladar Berry Joint Fire Committee dated May 25th, 2023.
Comments, Counselor Fowler.
Yes. I'm supposed to be the alternate member to this meeting, and I see that the chair, Wayne Good, was not there. And I was just wondering why I wasn't notified to come and fill in for, not his position as chair, because I see that they did elect somebody else to be the chair. So I don't know whether it was a time problem or someone just missed something.
Counselor Hoodle.
We weren't aware that Councillor Good was not going to be there until that morning.
Okay, I can accept that. Thanks.
So the question from me to you is, would you not go to that meeting anyway?
Never, no, I wouldn't go anyway. I'm the alternate member. If there is a vacancy from one of our people,
Then you go.
then I should be notified to go.
Right, thank you.
And in this case, there wasn't enough time. So I understand that.
Makes common sense. Okay, any other comments? In favor of the motion? Resolution's carried. Is there any notice of motion for a future council meeting? Seeing none. We have no motions, written notice, etc. Councillor verbal reports. So. As the mayor, attended and helped work the Festival of Stars. I don't care if 10 degrees gets awfully cold eventually after you've been out for a while, but it is a really absolutely well-run event. People came from all over. They came from the States, came from Quebec, came from as far away as Goderich, Toronto, London. It was just well worth it. I might go a little later next year and stay a little later, but we start at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Eventually it catches up to you. So that's one. We had our County of Frontenac had a council meeting on this past Wednesday. And grab this. A number of items came up. It was time, they had a public meeting to start with where they were soliciting requests for budget requests. So if you wanted money out of the county, this was your opportunity to make a presentation and request that money. There was two. One was the Cataraqui Conservation Authority for money regarding one of their trails. And there was a woman from the Food Policy Council was there. We had a delegation on a presentation from Nancy Cairns, and she was addressing council on behalf of Women of Ontario, Say No. Her position is that there are women in the workplace and on council and who are ratepayers or who are visitors or attendees to council meetings and so on, are treated very badly by staff, but primarily counselors and so on. And we suggested that we accepted a presentation, but suggested that it isn't always women. Sometimes men are bullied as well. So we heard that. Fairmont Home provided a strategic plan, which was interesting, and a capital expenditures report. We did talk about the response times from the Frontenac paramedics. Frontenac's paramedics are one of the leading paramedic organizations in Eastern Ontario. Their response times are at or better than almost anybody else. However, they're still not meeting their guidelines or objectives. And they asked, the question was asked, should we lower them to their current response? And we said no. It's like for a sudden cardiac arrest, 6 minutes. And they're there in like 90 or 89% of the time. It's a sliding scale. The lowest one's like 75%, and they're getting 64, 65. A lot of the problem is the offloading at hospitals. Until that is sorted out, this is always going to be an issue. And I suspect part of its response, and I think they're going to ask for another ambulance in the coming budget, but I don't know that for sure. It was something that was sort of tabled at the last 23 budget work. Then came the Municipal Service Corporation, and we're moving forward with that at a county level. So there are two organizations that are going to be set up within that organization. The first is the Board of Directors. I believe this is coming next meeting here. So the Board of Directors consists of 4 members, 4 townships, and the county. County does not have a vote. The preference for the business case was the mayor's, but doesn't have to be the mayor. The second organization is a technical advisory committee, which is going to do a lot of the basic groundwork to establish this entire committee. So if you look at the first one, the Board of Directors being the political issue and overall directives like a council, and then technical advisory committee are the ones that do a lot of the work. I've asked Roy to take a look at it when that's advertised, because his background, he'll make that choice on his own. Then the county decided to spend up to $100,000 from the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund to do an asset management review of a number of their buildings. And that, I believe, includes, Brad, you can correct me on this, Fairmont Home. Fairmont Homes, it's a big issue. Yeah. Okay, so number of advisory committee reports. There was a health building or an outlet for KFLNA in Charlotte Lake. That building, we approved the sale of it because no one works out of it anymore. I think that was it. Hang on. That was it. So that's my report. So the next one will be Councilor Wayne Good is not here. Councilor Regent.
So I'm just reading from my notes off my phone. I'm not looking at Facebook. So we had our family health team board of directors meeting, and there's a couple things. So first of all, it doesn't really make much difference for this purposes of this meeting, but the family health team is the Ministry of Health is transferring us to Ontario Health effective October 1st. It doesn't really change anything, but it's just in case you hear the new lingo around, that's what's happening. We are working on a quality improvement plan, and I have to give tons of kudos to Janice, who is probably one of the most hardworking, dedicated people I have ever come across in healthcare. So just a little shout out to her. So I don't think she gets thanked enough. I mean, from people outside that organization. We're also still looking for a nurse practitioner for Denby. When I say we, I don't mean me. They interviewed two people. One nurse practitioner ended up taking a position in his own hometown, and the other one had quite a list of demands. So we did not follow through on that. We have a little bit of money to put towards recruitment for an NP, but we haven't decided yet what we're doing about that. We had a long discussion about hiring the physician issue, which led into another discussion with Councillor Hudel and Dr. Ward the other day, which perhaps I could let Councillor Hudel touch on. He's got that whole situation very well put together, so I might leave that with him. We are also working on some new bylaws and what have you, so not to bore you, but we're working on that together as a group. And the other thing, and I do not see it in my notes here, but there was something else I wanted to share with you, and now I can't think of what it is. There's a new brochure that Ken Hook put together to help with the physician recruitment, and that's being given out wherever it possibly can be. And other than that, maybe Roy do you want to just touch on the conversation with Dr. Ward, if that's appropriate?
Yeah, I'll talk about that first. Councillor Regent and myself, Matt and Dr. Ward had a discussion on Monday about recruitment of a physician in our area. So there are some steps being taken. One of them, Councillor Regent will be asking Janice if what help we can provide. And at the meeting, we thought that it would be a good time that Addington Highlands and North Frontenac partner up and do something with this. Dr. Ward, he agreed that it's very difficult to recruit a doctor in this area, but it's not impossible. We just have to have a good game plan. So sort of the next step, I guess, would be Councillor Regent speaking to Janice and seeing what help she would like from the two municipalities, because really this is a partnership. We couldn't do it on our own, or neither could Addington Highlands. I think we're much stronger together. So we'll wait for that and then we'll go from there. We did have a board meeting at the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority last Monday. A lot of it was discussing what Sally presented today. And budget season's coming up, and it was interesting that, and I'm sure it's going to happen here also, that their employee benefits package is significantly increasing this year from the insurance company. So that's not to be unexpected. And nothing else, no Lake Association meetings. I think that season's over.
Councillor Fowler.
Okay, I'll go out of order.
You're not out of order. Well, I did that last time too. I apologize. Councillor Hermer.
Nothing to report.
Councillor Fowler.
That was quick. Yeah, regarding the SALT committee, we did have a SALT meeting on September 7th, and we in the meantime, I booked the Clare Mill Hall for the 23rd of October for a SALT presentation. I forwarded that information to our people at the RIFCUS. They were involved with the SALT committee as well. And also there was a SALT presentation at the Legion at Sharpeville Lake. It was well attended. What happened is they had a bingo during the afternoon, and then after that, we had our presentation and the meal was presented to the people. And they're part of the North and Central Salt Committee. And that was a very successful thing, and it was on fire fire awareness. Also, there was a EOTA meeting last Thursday, September 14th. I attended that. And not really much happened there, but there was discussions, and we did get a new member from Central because one of their counselors had resigned. And so we've got Nikki.
Howdy.
Yeah. And she joined it. So anyway, that's all I got to report right now.
Deputy Mayor.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. No meetings with lake associations, but I am talking to members of the Palmerston Lake Association. They're very interested in the process of negotiations about the Hall property, of course. I would say they're generally opposed to the development as proposed. My role has simply been to tell them what the process is and what the timing is. And it's happening. I've been speaking with forgotten her name for Jenny at the county about the process, and it's been very informative, and I'm not expressing any opinions. I'm just telling them what the process is, and that's ongoing, and they seem to appreciate it.
One of the things that I forgot to include in my report was John and I had a meeting for about an hour and a half, and we talked about how the mayor and the deputy mayor could work together. And so we're working on developing that over the coming months. So we'll see how that works out. And I had a meeting with Bruce Moore from the North Frontenac Lake Association Alliance. I thought it was very productive. The proof is in the pudding at the end of the day, but it seems I thought we had a meeting of the minds. The devil is always in the details, but we talked about septic systems and a little bit about short-term rentals and general representation of the strategic plan and so on and so forth, to the point that the consultant was able to identify an hour time slot for the North Frontenac Lake Association to have their own strategic planning focus group. So that's it. That brings us to the where am I here? Reading of the bylaws.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hudel, be resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce the following bylaws that have been circulated to all members of council. Bylaw 6023, road closing bylaw, Williams of Witten. Bylaw 6123, road closure bylaw, Witten Barton Road. Bylaw 6223, to sign an MOU with Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority. Bylaw 6323, fees and charges bylaw, and repeal bylaws 3623 and 5223, and that these bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Comments? In favor? The motion is carried. We now have an opportunity for the public to voice an opinion. Is there anybody online? And Bert as well, hang on, let's do the online first, then we'll give you its opportunity. Anybody online, Sonia?
No public online.
Council Chamber, Mr. Kent?
Couple things I'd like to mention on your electric vehicles. You're the same as the farmer is. When they start silo, it's a 24-hour shift. Your batteries is good for 4 hours. This means you're going to have to double your equipment for an 8, well, nobody works an 8-hour shift today, but if you're planning on working an 8-hour shift, you're going to have to double your vehicles. The other thing is, if you've ever been around a battery when it exploded, you won't do it the second time.
Thank you. Good points. Good points. And that was part of the reference with the fire chief and training and suppression and so on, you know. We have to protect our staff as well as the public property and as well. So thank you for your comments. Or do you have any more? Did I cut you off? If I did, I'm sorry. Thank you. We will now retire into closed session. We'll take a break until 11:40 and we'll clear the council chamber. And we'll be back at the end of the closed session.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council retires to closed session at 11:34 a.m. to adopt minutes of a closed meeting dated September 7th, 2023, and to consider advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege specifically regarding assumed maintenance of roads.
Any comments? In favor? Motion is carried. Welcome back to our regular meeting. You have to do it at this point in time. No, we're back in the regular meeting. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. From a Verizon report from the closed meeting, we passed the minutes from the previous closed meeting, September the 7th, 2023. And we discussed the potential road assumption of a private road or of a township road in North Frontenac.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Ingalls. Be resolved that council instructs the Public Works Manager to update the Palmerston Highlands Owners Association confirming roads identified in the subdivision agreement are owned by the township and not assumed for maintenance purposes. Palmerston Highlands Owners Association's ongoing covenant to maintain the roads and bridge per the subdivision agreement remains. The section 119 of the Land Titles Act applies to restrictive covenants only. The PHOA were granted tenure by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry for the bridge, and the township does not own the bridge, and that council does not approve assuming the roads and bridge within the subdivision.
Any comments? In favor? That motion is carried. We have the confirmatory bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that bylaw 6423, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council for its regular meeting held September 22nd, 2023, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Comments? In favor? Motion's carried. Adjournment.
Moved by Counselor Regent, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council adjourns the meeting at 12:46 p.m. until October 13th, 2023, or at the call of the chair.
Any discussion? In favor? Carried. Meeting's adjourned.